Did you talk about permitting changes that you could make now that would lower the break-even cost of oil to allow producers to keep pumping and keep making money?
We did. You know, we heard a litany of delays, of uncertainty about whether they could get permits, whether they could do this or whether they could do that. So we were in listening mode and heard a number of things. And our message was the goal of this administration, President Trump got elected to increase American energy production. More supply means lower costs, more jobs, more opportunities, and more geopolitical power. So we were in listening mode, but absolutely said we want to be helpful to unleash American energy.
Secretary, when you talk about listening mode, last week I was at CERAWeek by S&P Global in Houston, as were you, and I listened when many CEOs said they had concerns about tariffs. Did you address some of that yesterday at the White House?
Tariffs wasn't discussed at the meeting. It was more a broader unleash American energy and all that. We actually didn't get into the tariff dialogue.
What would you suggest then to energy producers who are concerned, if not about the lasting impact of tariffs, some of the confusion that has surrounded this conversation? Mr. Secretary, you've seen the market reaction, and this is a reality for every business owner.
It is. Look, the president's got a vision. He's got a bold agenda, and it's being created right now. So there's negotiations with multiple countries. Think of his overwhelming goal. He wants reciprocal trade. If a country has high tariffs on us, he wants them to lower their tariffs on us, and he'll match that reciprocally. So these are negotiations that need to go back and forth. So I understand the uncertainty. We all feel it. We all see it. But I think it's a negotiation going to a great place. But we won't have clarity. I think it won't be that long, but we're not there yet.
I do want to ask you a question about our reporting that you will seek up to $20 billion to accomplish the president's goal of refilling the nation's oil reserve. Obviously, you'll have to go to Congress on that. Have you done that? And what will you do about that moving forward in Washington, D.C.?
Yes, it's critical in our ask and in our agenda. You know, that the Strategic Petroleum Reserve is for just that. It's to be strategic safety and security in the event of very bad world events. They may never happen. We hope they don't. It's like insurance. But you've got to be prepared for anything. We've got to have our country secure and safe no matter what happens with energy. Because if you get energy wrong, nothing else matters. So yes, we're going to Congress to get money for that. Sadly, it takes much longer to refill the Strategic Petroleum Reserve than it took to drain it for political reasons, not strategic reasons, in the 2022 midterm elections. So it's a multi-year process to fill it. But we want to get going as soon as we can.
We talked about that last time you joined us from Port Sulphur, Secretary. Just quickly before we move on, do you know how soon you can make your first bid on oil, the first batch to refill the SPR?
I suspect that's up to Congress. So the Congress is going through a process there.
Now, though, or do you want to see $50 crude before you make that move?
Oh, no, we would happily. We're not going to guess the price of oil and all that. We would happily buy crude right now. Obviously, if we see spikes higher or huge dislocations, we might stop buying crude. But no, if we had the approval right now, we'd be in the market today.
President Trump, Mr. Secretary, reintroduced the prospect of a minerals deal with Ukraine today. This is what he said. I'd love to get your reaction.
We're also signing agreements in various locations to unlock rare earths and minerals and lots of other things all over the world. But in particular, Ukraine, we're doing very well with regard to Ukraine and Russia. And one of the things we are doing is signing a deal very shortly with respect to rare earths with Ukraine, which they have tremendous value in rare earth, and we appreciate that.
Got everyone's antennas up today, Mr. Secretary. What are you hearing about this? How quickly could it happen?
I think a deal could be done quickly. It's a brilliant idea when you think about it. We often use this misnomer term, natural resources. Those resources have been underground for millions of years, and they haven't benefited anyone. I call them natural materials. They only become resources when technology, capital, and human activity brings them out of the ground and turns them into resources. But to have the United States as your partner to develop materials that have been sitting there for a long time unused, that's upside to Ukraine, it's upside to the United States, and of course it's a joining together of the nations in an effort on the ground in Ukraine. If I'm Ukraine, I am all in on that deal, and as the American Energy Secretary, I am all in on that deal.
You know, last night we spoke with retired General Wesley Clark, former NATO Supreme Allied Commander. Here's what he had to say about putting U.S. involvement in energy facilities in Ukraine.
Those are old, what we consider obsolescent nuclear plants. We didn't design those plants. They're not our plants. We can't just transplant people over there and say, hey, by the way, this is the GE design, go after it. It isn't. But yes, we could learn to take care of those plants. Zaporizhia, the plant's been partially occupied by the Russians. They've threatened to damage it and destroy it at various times. It wouldn't be such a bad thing if the United States says, well, now you can't touch it because we're in it.
Secretary, your response to that?
Yeah, of course there's complexities in everything when you do business offshore, overseas. Boy, I've done business in countries much more difficult to operate in than Ukraine. But, you know, of course, the general's right. It's a different plant design. But you would bring local experts that know that plant, and you'd bring high-end nuclear experts from the United States, and together, I think wise decisions would be made. If the political decision is made for the U.S. to lead the operation of that plant, so be it. We could do that, I think, with very little problem.
Well, Secretary, have you spoken with any American companies that would be interested in buying a plant like Zaporizhia? And if this happened, whether it was that or another, would your department regulate it?
No dialogues about that yet. No dialogues about that yet. But America's full of expertise in this area. And boy, I, at the Department of Energy, have been overwhelmed with people putting their hand in the air and saying, put me in. How can I help? What can I do? So I think we would see tremendous interest. Something needed to be done. We'd have tons of people wanting to do it.